What's up, guys? This video we're going to break down how modern men became so weak. Specifically identified 7 reasons for the weakness you see in men nowadays. We're going to go over that and some potential solutions so this doesn't happen to you. Alright, so it's no secret that men today are weaker than they've ever been, but the question is why? So let's explore the reasons. I think the first one is pretty obvious. It's a lack of physical exertion. For pretty much all of human history, there was really no way around physical labor. Like, even if you were, like let's say a merchant or something like that, you still have to go out there and physically do shit. I guess the only exception would be a king, because then you could just sit around and order people around, but that's why a lot of kings were fat. Nowadays, you don't really have to do any of that. You have Postmates, which will deliver food to your house. You have Amazon, which will deliver all the other shit that you want. You basically don't even need to leave your house anymore. And a lot of people, for all intents and purposes, barely do. And I think this kind of lack of physical exertion is going to make you weak. That's why you have to consciously seek it out by going to the gym and lifting heavy things, which is something that some men do, like me, but a lot of men don't. They don't exercise. They don't play sports. They don't lift heavy things. They just sit around all day on their computer or on their phone, and basically they just become very weak. Their muscles atrophy over time. This is why when astronauts go into outer space, they go out of their way to exercise, because they know that because of the lack of gravity, they will become very weak if they don't do that, right? A lot of astronauts have noticed that when they came back into orbit. Well, I think it's like that to a lesser extent even here on Earth. Like, if you don't really do shit, the human body was designed to move, and if you don't use it, you will sort of lose it to some extent. So that's the first one. The second one is more broad. It's a lack of challenge. So for pretty much all of human history, there was no way around strife and challenges. Like, just by existing, basically for any time except now, you were constantly faced with challenges and strife and various hardships that you had to overcome. Now, you can make the argument that some hardships are too much, like if it's something that kills you or like, really fucking, just crushes you, then that's not a good thing. But the other extreme is not that great either, where you have a complete lack of hardship of any kind. And that's what makes a lot of people very soft. They get super easily triggered by anything and everything, and that is not what you want to be. So nowadays, you have to consciously seek out challenge and strife. It won't just come to you like it would have in any other time in history. So I constantly like to challenge myself. Like, I do things that push me outside my comfort zone, and that is what's going to make me, let's just say, more masculine, rather than just sitting around and just staying within my comfort zone all the time. Because again, for all of human history, you didn't have to do that. Like, you were constantly pushed outside of your comfort zone by external circumstances, but this is no longer the case. Number 3, porn and OnlyFans. So for all of human history, if you wanted to bust a nut, you had to just go out and pick up a chick. I mean, I guess you could just jerk off in your cave, but aside from that, porn was not available at your fingertips. And I think a lot of people nowadays, they go to the other end of the spectrum, where they don't even go out and interact with girls in real life. They just fucking jerk off, or they have sex robots that they fuck, or that they marry, whatever. Like, a lot of people just completely don't go out and actually mate or have sex or even talk to the opposite sex, and that's an issue. Now, I'm not one of those guys that's like hardcore no porn. I think that if you do it in moderation, it's okay. But the problem is when guys spend all day watching porn, right? Or they just don't interact with girls at all, and that's an issue. So you have to very minimize that, if not completely cut it out. I think there's definitely a lot of merits to doing no-fap and stuff like that. Number 4, lack of reading. So pretty much most of human history, if you want some entertainment, reading was how you do it. You had to read a book. But nowadays, you have TV shows, you have, fucking your cell phone, you have YouTube, you have awesome videos like this, you have a lot of shit, and people don't read. I think I would say probably 95% of people who are watching this video haven't read a book in a very long time. And I think that's a little bit sad that people don't read anymore. And the reason they don't is because they have so many options that are easier. It's a lot easier to watch a TV show or go on Snapchat than it is to pick up and read a book, right? But I think it's important. Like, I'm not saying you have to completely give up any kind of entertainment, but you should take at least 50% of the time that you spend watching TV and use it to read. And I'm telling you this, when you go a while without reading, the first time you pick up a book, it's going to be like literally like fucking your head is going to explode, right? Because it takes a different kind of attention. And a lot of people don't have that muscle. So the first time you pick up a book, if you haven't read it in a while, it's going to be really difficult. But trust me, after a while you get used to it, and it's actually a lot of fun. I very much enjoy reading. I try to read at least one new book every 2 months or something like that. I think it's really good to read, and people really need to do that more. Number 5, lack of real life interaction in general. So people, aside from just talking to girls, people don't even have friends anymore quite often. Like a lot of people have these virtual friends, like, oh, you know, who do you hang out with? Well, you know, I have my Discord friends. I'm like, what the fuck is actually that? Like, people need to have real life interactions with other human beings. Doing it over FaceTime, or over Discord, or over all these alternative, you know, platforms is not the same thing as interacting with your friends in real life. Now, I'm not saying you can never use modern technology. You know, I'm part of some WhatsApp groups, some whatnot, I'm part of a few Telegram groups, but I actively go out and talk to my friends. And you know what's really interesting? I've noticed that the younger generation, like we're talking Generation Z, they're super socially awkward because literally they spend all day on their phone. They have no experience with real life social interactions. When I was a kid, all that shit didn't exist, so you have to go out and play with your friends. People nowadays really don't do that. They just sit around on their phone, so by the time they become an adult, they're extremely socially awkward. They just literally, not even around women, just around other people in general, they don't know how to handle social situations. So don't let that be you. Go out there and actually fucking socialize. Number 6, lack of discipline. People are so undisciplined nowadays. Like, people just eat anything and everything, right? And then when you tell someone, like, hey, maybe you should try doing a week where you just don't eat any sugar or you don't eat fast food, like, it's like asking them to solve, you know, fucking cure cancer. They're like, that's impossible. There's no way I can do that. Why? It's a complete lack of discipline. Now, the ironic thing is, if you eat like shit, that will actually have a physical effect on your manliness, because, you know, when you eat a bunch of shitty food, that directly limits how much testosterone you produce, and you're basically producing half the testosterone of your ancestors who ate a good diet, right? So I think that's a physical, you know, real fucking thing that's very tangible that will happen when you eat like shit. But I think lack of discipline is a bigger problem that a lot of people have. And I will say this: discipline and willpower is like a muscle. So if you don't go out there and exercise your willpower for a while, it will become super weak. So the first time you let's say you were inspired by this video, you decide to change your life, and you start exercising your willpower, you will get really fatigued really fast if you haven't done it for a while. It's something you have to build up over time. And if you don't lose it, it is gonna atrophy, and you're gonna be like close to zero, right? I'm not saying you'll never be able to get your willpower back, but it's gonna be a fucking process. It's gonna take a lot of time. So you can basically limit that by actually exercising your willpower today and forcing yourself to do shit that make you slightly uncomfortable. And number 7, this might potentially be the biggest reason, is a lot of people nowadays are a spectator. So with things like, you know, like instead of playing sports, people watch sports. Instead of going and traveling to cool places, they just look at pictures in the Instagram of other people doing that. Instead of experiencing cool, fun social situations, they just watch reality TV. And a lot of people are living in spectator mode. And I think that's really bad for your psyche. You want to be the star of your own show, not a spectator to someone else's show. So the question is, what can you do about all this? Well, a lot of the solutions I've already definitely hinted at. Like, actually force yourself to go out there and exercise and physically do things. If you're really not into lifting weights for whatever reason, that's fine. Play a sport. Do something that's physical. You have to move. The human body wasn't designed to spend 12 hours a day on a computer. Number 2 is challenge yourself. Don't live life on easy mode. Don't constantly stay in your comfort zone. Go out there and do things that make you uncomfortable, and have goals and have a purpose and challenge yourself, and then use the goals that you accomplish to build further goals, right? When initially I started my YouTube channel, I wasn't thinking like, hey, how can I get to 1 million subscribers? Like, how can I get to 1,000 subscribers? Then I used that to build, okay, how can I get to 10,000 subscribers, and so on. When I first got into game, my goal wasn't to have a threesome. It was just to get a date. But then you build on that and you build on it. So you want to use your goals to build on your goals and build further. And I think if you, again, another of it is just looking at the problems you have. If you spend a lot of time watching porn, then stop watching porn. Go out there and talk to girls. If you spend a lot of time watching TV, then stop doing that. Read a book. Go out there and socialize. So I think looking at what exactly you're doing that's basically making you lazy and not doing it. But I think also the biggest thing is having some discipline. Like, I think it's sad how the average man nowadays has close to no discipline. They're just at the whims of their fucking desires. Like, oh, I feel like eating a burger today. I can't resist. And they're pulled into McDonald's. Like, that shouldn't be you. You should have a high level of discipline. You should have a purpose. You should have some goals. And of course, you can enjoy life and indulge in the pleasures, but it has to be in moderation. All right, hopefully you guys found this video valuable, and you can start exercising your willpower right now by smashing that like button, hitting subscribe, and clicking that bell for notification for good measure. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.